Welcome to The Alternative Investor. The issue around the lack of diversity in the asset management industry has been an issue that continues to grow year in and year out. Last year on the show, you may remember we had the team from 274 Asset Managers. They always write a report every year that looks at transformation in the asset management industry, that is. But now what's happened is that the team of Rescura have also noticed what is going on in the asset management industry, specifically rather in portfolio management. And they have some options and some propositions that we can put forward in order to drive that much needed change that we do need in asset management. And to have that conversation about where the stumbling blocks are and how we can fix it, we're joined by Prasheen Singh, who's a director at Rescura. Prasheen, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Share with us your thoughts, what you think are some of the issues and stumbling blocks.
Hi, good afternoon. Pleasure to be joining you today. I think when we think about it, it's actually history that puts us there, and the fact that we have been previously dominated by a specific sector of society, or white males, and their thinking. And I think in general, when people think about decision making, they're very comfortable with dealing with the familiar and dealing with people that they're familiar with, because in some way people believe that if you deal with someone familiar, they'll be able to think and make decisions the same way you do. And we have this weakness in thinking that familiar people will give us good decisions or give us decisions the way we believe decisions should be made. Now, it turns out, obviously, that that's completely not true. And that diverse thinking and diversity, more importantly, actually improves decision making. And so I think from our perspective, we firmly embrace that diverse thinking and diversity, not only from cultures, educations, backgrounds, and also experiences, which all contribute in a world where decision making and within the financial sector, we aren't just focused on financial returns only anymore. We are focused on a broader set of contributors, being environmental, social, and governance factors, looking at responsible investing, looking at the variety of alternative investments, looking at infrastructure impact. All of these diverse topics require diverse thinking and diverse approaches.
What can be done to fix the issue? Is it a case where, leaders within the financial institutions have to be deliberate about the idea of having to source women as portfolio managers and to help them move up the ladder?
I think, it might sound a bit philosophical, but ultimately it just needs to come down to a change in thought, in the way we think about it, and in the recognition that actually diversity will generate the results and does generate the results that we require. I think more importantly, the way we're currently going about it, we have the BEE codes and we have prescriptions or quotas to some degree, not exactly, but some sort of limits or strides that we're making in this industry. And I think initially that might need to be the catalyst, but ultimately the benefits of diverse thinking, diversity, women in the workplace, different opinions and different thought processes in any discussion lead to higher decision making and better decision making. And the benefits are evident. We've seen it in the industry, and we need to embrace it. And so ultimately, I think even the codes will evolve to a far better place with the recognition and with the onboarding of these processes. Initially, also, I think people tread more carefully. So again, in line with that weakness around wanting decision-making to be with what you're familiar with, we've had a lot of change and influence in maybe some of the softer sectors where we look at administration or the marketing kind of areas. But what we really need now is we need that change, and we need to see more evident change of that in the raw analytical skills that we see. So in the active portfolio management, in the analysis, in the contribution to the direct financial returns on portfolios. And we need to see that because financial services is at the forefront, is very visible, and we need to build these financial services based on that diverse thinking.
Right. Let's shift gears a little bit and look at some of the trends you're picking up in terms of asset allocation.
Sure. So Riskira as a global purpose-driven investment firm is always on the lookout for what is exciting and what is opportune. We know what's going on in the market, so we're very much aware that investment returns are always forefront of everyone's minds, but that's influenced by multiple factors. So inflation currently is very high on everyone's radar. We recognize that, of course, we got to look at, we've seen significant returns out of developed markets, but emerging markets are certainly looking attractive. One area that's been very exciting for us over the last few years has been China, particularly mainland China, and the opportunity that it presents. The Orient Opportunity China Fund, for example, has doubled over the last 2 years, despite COVID and all of the market circumstances that we've been seeing. So it's been an aggregation of looking at emerging markets, China specifically in certain markets, recognizing that there's deviation between the different styles that we see, so value versus growth in some instances, seeing a turnaround and coming around. And from an asset class perspective, we like to look at it holistically, so we don't see unlisted or alternatives as separate asset classes, but we embrace their utilization within the various asset classes to which they relate. So utilizing alternatives, looking at the impact, looking at the infrastructure investments, looking at renewables, looking at all of the areas which can contribute ultimately to the returns that our clients, members, and we as retirement beneficiaries can expect.
Before I let you go, let's look at the future of asset management in South Africa. Are there particular themes that you believe will have some kind of strong hold or an influence?
Absolutely. I think most of everything that I've said so far, but I think importantly, our approach as a progressive global investment firm at Riskira is to actually say, what do we envisage? And now at that point, 20 years or 10 years from now, let's look back and see what we need to do now. And that's been part of our drive of saying, well, we need to build capacity in the areas where skills need to be improved and or in areas where the asset classes may be far too traditional and where we need to build out some of the alternatives. So looking at that, recognizing that the asset management industry is the one that is most visible to the extent that daily we're looking at returns, whether it's members or whether we're looking at collective investment scheme returns or watching the news with market indicators. And we recognize that we need to build capacity, particularly within South Africa, to operate as global investment ambassadors. So we can't just focus on South Africa alone. We know that the South African market is global. It's more than 65% of it is affected by what goes on globally and is influenced by that. And so building that out and building that track record to be a global investment player and to be a hub for global investments, I think that will be a very firm initiative which we are striving for, certainly, to build that future that we look forward to. South Africa is a global investment hub, building on global investment skills. We've already seen some of the improvement in the emerging market areas and where we've seen skill sets being grown there. But I think that needs to flesh out more, to be more broad, more global, completely developed, emerging, frontier, all the components within that.
Prasheen, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. That is Prasheen Singh, who's a director at Riskira, talking to us about diversity in the asset management industry. Now, some of you may be noticing the visuals that are playing out on the top right-hand corner, right there where President Cyril Ramaphosa was visiting the port of Durban in KZN. Of course, he was looking at the progress being made and enhancing efficiency and competitiveness around that particular area. You also saw visuals of him accompanied by Minister Pravin Gordhan. He was also accompanied by the Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula, as well as the Mayor of eThekwini, Mxolisi Kaunda. Those are the visuals that are playing out on that particular front. And a little bit earlier on, he was receiving, of course, a briefing from senior management at Transnet on the port of Durban. Of course, we do know that the port plays a very particular and important role when it comes to logistics, particularly in South Africa. So I'm going to leave you with those visuals. We will be monitoring that situation. We will be showing you some of those meetings and discussions that are taking place on that side. But for me, that's it. I'll be back tomorrow with Books on Point.